Happy Friday, everyone. Josh's severe weather. So much to talk about here with a big storm over the southeast this weekend and more severe weather in the forecast for later next week. So much to learn about. It'll just make you want to shout Blippy. No, what is my problem? All right, so I'm a little sleep deprived here. Um, Set my alarm for 5:30 and wake up at 4 a.m. So we're going to get this done early today and then get off to the gym and have a productive Friday and make it count. So here we go. Big weekend storm. We have a big upper level trough that's going to drop down into the south central states and into the northern Gulf. And low pressure will form over the northern Gulf here today into tonight and then track across the southeast this weekend and then out to sea early next week. This is not going to be a big northeast storm, but farther south, we are going to see accumulating snow in some places that have not really seen much or any snowfall yet this winter. And as colder air aloft moves over these areas, it's going to be a wet snow that a lot of it will depend on how hard the snow is falling, as temperatures are going to be very marginal with this event, but also elevational. So right now, my forecast shows that the heaviest amount of snow is in the purple area from North Georgia and Southeast Tennessee, straight up the spine of the Appalachians and right on into West Virginia and western and central parts of Virginia, the I-81 corridor, with several inches possible and maybe even a foot in the heaviest amounts of snow. And the majority of this will be falling Sunday, especially in the morning and into the early afternoon, and then Sunday night farther north and east. We're looking at heavy rain, maybe several inches from the central Gulf states right on through the Carolinas into the Delmarva, some stronger winds at the coast as well as this low gets cranking. And there is a warm sector that could produce not only some heavy rain, but some severe storms as we get into the day tomorrow across northern and central Florida and maybe all the way up to the coastal Carolinas region. So a lot of us are going to be impacted in the southeast. It's going to be a very good weekend to stay indoors, especially Saturday night and Sunday in this region and here. So let's take a look at what's going on right now. Here is Tropical Tidbits water vapor showing you all one storm here moving across New England and southeast Canada. That will depart this morning. We have a big moisture feed out of the west-southwest. Here's our jet stream here producing some strong winds aloft, and that is going to send more clouds and more moisture out of the Gulf and Pacific into Louisiana tonight and across the southeast over the weekend. So kind of our first impulse moving through the Carolinas right now. We've got a little bit of rain falling here in Raleigh. That is going to move away. The next impulse is going to strengthen, and we're going to see this spin up here over parts of western Kansas, drop all the way down into Louisiana, and then come up the coast. And that upper level low will be bringing some colder air down with it, but not cold air down from Canada. So it's kind of going to be a cutoff low, and it's going to have a mind of its own here, where as it strengthens, the colder air aloft with that upper level feature will get mixed all the way down to the ground in heavier precipitation rates. So a very tricky forecast here because the upper low position is going to be extremely important as to what we end up seeing and where. So currently our radar from perryweather.com shows we've got some rain and thunderstorms over the Gulf states here and a few thunderstorms over southeastern Georgia. Let me put this in motion so you all can see it. Just let it load for just a second. Yep, it's 5 a.m. here. I'm up way too early for me even. But we can see showers spreading across the Carolinas here. It's raining right out my window here in Raleigh, where it's in the lower 60s right now. The heavier storms are off the coastline, though. As we zoom out, we can see our upper level feature here in Kansas producing just a small amount of snowfall here over the Flint Hills. And this is going to spread down towards the Ozark later today, but not a lot of snow expected with it. It's kind of dropping a little bit too far south for that. In the northeast, we've got our surface low here spinning across Ontario and southwest Quebec, and we've got moisture feeding out ahead of it. So snow falling here across Quebec, northern Maine, New Brunswick into Nova Scotia. That is changing over to some freezing rain, though, here between Montreal and Quebec City and right on down towards just south and west of Halifax, and even some rain, which we should be getting used to at this point here across southern and central parts of New England. Wraparound snow showers will follow this low pressure system today into tonight around the eastern Great Lakes into the central Appalachians as well. Our watch and warning map right now isn't super busy. We do have winter storm advisory and warning criteria across northern Maine. We have wind advisories over the eastern Great Lakes into interior New England, and we have a flash flood watch in the eastern Florida Panhandle around Tallahassee, spreading up towards Valdosta, Georgia. Out west, pretty quiet, just a fog advisory across the San Joaquin Valley And we do have a wind advisory as well for the mountains east of LA and San Diego, as we do have that upper low producing some stronger wind here over the weekend. But this is a quieter map than what we've seen. I do expect that will change. There is a marginal risk for some severe weather later today into tonight over central and eastern northern Florida into southern Georgia and even into the low country of South Carolina. And we may have a few thunderstorms all the way up the North Carolina coastline later on today. Tomorrow, though, we do have a threat for some severe weather in the warm sector of this upper level trough that moves through. We could see a few locally strong storms and even the threat for maybe a tornado or two, a 5% chance here. And that includes the Big Bend of Florida over to about Ocala, Gainesville, Daytona Beach, the Palm Coast, those areas, mainly north of I-4. And a lot of that's going to be later tomorrow into tomorrow night. We do have a wind threat as well in here, a 15% chance of severe wind. As we get to day 3, that is Sunday, our storm is going to be leaving this part of Florida. We could still have a few thunderstorms in eastern North Carolina. So it may be snowing in western North Carolina and thunderstorms near the coast here on Sunday and Sunday afternoon before this system heads out. We do have another outbreak of severe weather that I'm going to get to. I'm going to move that over and we'll get right back to it next week. So anyway, yeah. I've had some issues with weatherbell.com's modeling, so I apologize for that. It's not loading in every frame, but here is the rain forecast through next Monday. And we can see a large area of 2 to 4 inches of rain is predicted from northern Florida through Georgia and into eastern North Carolina. And a lot of this in here will be mixed going over to snow over the Appalachians, where an inch or two of liquid will fall. So it's going to be a miserable weekend, even if it's not snowing. We're talking about cold rain across much of Virginia and the Carolinas. The GFS has a little bit of a bullseye here in South Jersey. That would be Sunday evening, right during the Super Bowl, 1 to 2 inches of rain possible. The European, though, keeps it farther south, so there are some track differences, with the Euro continuing to show the storm a little bit farther southeast than the GFS. So the GFS brings things farther inland. It has heavier amounts of snow in eastern Tennessee than the European, which is more limited into the Carolinas and northern Georgia. So we still do not have strong agreement on our two big major global models and what's going to happen here on Sunday, 48 hours out. So the forecast is still going to need some adjustments to it, but in general, I'm going to be able to show you where things are expected. Now, up until then, here's the NAM model showing showers and storms moving through the Carolinas this morning, and then another wave coming out of the Gulf later today. This is about 1 o'clock Central Time to Eastern, and we see heavier storms will get going over the Florida Panhandle and southern Georgia as the afternoon wears on. A chilly rain across the Arklatex region, maybe even a few snowflakes mixed in over the Ouachita Plateau here this evening. Heavy, chilly rain will impact you in New Orleans. For those of you that may be doing some parades here heading into the weekend, not looking great for that. We see heavy rain expanding north and eastward into the Carolinas. There is going to be a point where the dry air wins out tomorrow. So if you want to get outdoor activities done in Tennessee and in North Carolina and even upstate South Carolina, tomorrow may not be a terribly bad day, but rain does lurk as we get towards the end of the day and evening. It will slowly creep north and will fall heavily. This is at the end of the day tomorrow across central Mississippi, much of Alabama and Georgia, into much of South Carolina. And we do have our little squall line going here that will spread across the Florida Peninsula in the evening and could produce some severe weather. So tomorrow during the afternoon, not bad across the Florida Peninsula. It's going to stay warm, but Saturday evening, we could have some severe weather in here as our low moves northeastward into southern Georgia. The NAM does have enough cooling aloft with our upper low to produce some snow all the way down to near Laurel and Hattiesburg and Meridian, Mississippi, east of Jackson. So some flakes could mix in here if the NAM is right. As the system starts spreading northward here Saturday evening, we'll see potentially a change to some freezing rain and sleet over the foothills region of North Carolina and then southern Virginia as we get to about midnight here. Our low will track up the coast. We'll have heavy thunderstorms along the South Carolina coast spreading into the Wilmington area towards daybreak Sunday. Heavy rain and maybe a few embedded thunderstorms across the rest of the Midlands into the Piedmont. And we'll see backside snow over northern Alabama. And somebody could get a surprise snow out of this. There are some higher elevations that could pick up some significant snowfall around daybreak on Sunday. That spreads in the middle Tennessee, according to the NAM. The Euro's farther east, so the Euro kind of dries this area out. So we've got about a 100-mile difference in the models. But as we get to Sunday morning, we've got a squall line moving up the North Carolina coast, heavy cold rain back in the Piedmont into southern and central Virginia, and then rain changing over to snow, especially elevational spots from Alabama and Tennessee over into North Carolina and Virginia. And as the day wears on, that could spread up into Kentucky and then West Virginia in the afternoon. Most of the rain Sunday looks like it'll be in the morning across North Carolina. Then we may get a break and then some chilly showers with wet snowflakes mixed in towards the evening hours Sunday here across parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, and South Central Virginia. We're going to have some wind as well with this, especially at the coast. Expect wind gusts from the European showing 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts up the coast. There could be a bit of coastal flooding. Inland areas could have a few gusts over 40. Mountainous areas could have gusts to 50 miles per hour. So it will be not only cold and wet, but it will be a windy day on Sunday. The European shows the heaviest amounts of snow will fall over northeast Tennessee, northwestern North Carolina, southwestern Virginia, with amounts accumulating of 6 to 12 inches. A lot of these places will be over 2,000 feet up, maybe some 4,000 to 5,000 feet up. When you get farther east, I don't think we're going to see much sticking around Charlotte or Greenwood, South Carolina, or even Atlanta, Georgia. It's certainly not Raleigh and on eastward, or Richmond either. And as we get into Maryland and DC, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of snow out of this. Maybe a very minor accumulation, primarily snowflakes that don't accumulate as they reach the ground. And we'll zoom out and show you guys as well, northeast Alabama, middle Tennessee. Nashville's here, so you're really on the line. But not expecting accumulation out of the European over Mississippi or central Alabama. And it doesn't mean, though, we couldn't see snow. And I would not be shocked if somebody in this region ends up getting a little bit of an accumulation. The Euro doesn't show that, but the GFS has somewhat of a, actually the NAM model actually has some accumulation. Now, the GFS is not your friend in Tennessee, especially right up east of the Cumberland Plateau over to about Johnson City. All the higher amounts stay on the eastern side of the spine of the Smokies here, and especially across Virginia. So quite a shift here between the GFS and the Euros still, just 24 hours from this storm starting. This is a little bit more favorable around the Triad, though, around Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and on northward for maybe a couple inches of wet snow falling in the evening on Sunday, right during the Super Bowl. It's also a bit more favorable towards D.C. and then central Maryland and the Shenandoah Valley. The Euro doesn't really have much of a lick of any snow here, but the the GFS does show that maybe an inch or so could try to accumulate Sunday evening. As we get farther up into the northeast, though, we'll hit a brick here by the time we get to the Mason-Dixon line, and no snow expected in areas that still have not really seen snow. So Jersey, Delaware, eastern Maryland, eastern Virginia, southeast Pennsylvania, probably not going to pick up any snow out of this. I'm going to show you all the NAM here, which is a shorter range model. And you can see the NAM definitely has lower amounts of snow, but definitely has higher amounts when you get back farther to the south and east, or south and west, over the Cumberland Plateau and into northern parts of Alabama. The NAM does drop a few inches of snow here as early as late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, but a big hole here over eastern Tennessee. So unless you're in the mountains, you are probably not going to see nearly as much snow because it'll be a little bit too warm. In fact, if we look at temperatures here, I will show you all what's going to happen here. So during the height of the storm here Sunday morning, we've got below freezing temperatures in the mountains, but in the areas between in the gap here, we're looking at upper 30s, low 40s, and that's going to make it really hard for snow to stick. So we can't really scour out this milder air with the upper level low. It's going to be so far south that the cooling will actually take place in central and northern Alabama and into Georgia, as well as upstate South Carolina. But 34 at daybreak here, or Saturday night, early Sunday morning with cold rain, just going to be a miserable start to Sunday if you're heading to church in the Carolinas. Just not a nice day to be out at all. All right, so we'll take a look here into the longer range. Here's the GFS. It shows snow and some mixed precipitation over the foothills and higher ground, the high country here. And then this storm heads away. This is Sunday night, and we could see on the backside a little bit of accumulating snow as well in the Shenandoah Valley down into south central Virginia. The GFS is bringing some heavier rain to the Philly area, maybe a few flakes mixed in here Sunday night, but really nothing that would stick. And then this pretty much rides the coast and heads out to sea after that. As you can see, it's moving out. We have cold air following, and early next week, some snow across upstate New York. Not really that exciting. The GFS shows it'll still be a mild day today, but cooling off as we get to this evening with our front dropping down through here and a chillier start to the weekend here, as tomorrow's temperatures are primarily in the 40s and 30s, where it'll be precipitating in western North Carolina. We still have a warm sector, though, that could feed into some severe weather here across central and northern Florida in the southeastern parts of Georgia. And as we get into Sunday, you can see that warm sector tries to hit the Outer Banks, but mainly stays off the coast. So a chilly rain here Sunday evening for the Super Bowl. And here's the area where it would likely be snowing across western North Carolina, western Virginia, southern parts of West Virginia, and far southeastern parts of Kentucky. Then we bounce right back next week. It'll be chilly still on Monday in this region, even though things will start clearing out, but warming up quickly as we get to Tuesday and Wednesday. And we have a stronger storm moving in Thursday evening, producing quite a contrast in very mild air coming right back up into Ohio, into the Carolinas. A bit of a wedge of chilly air in here will probably kill off our chances for stronger storms Thursday evening and Thursday night. And then much colder air back behind it. As you guys can see, we're down below zero with an Arctic outbreak moving back in at the end of next week across the upper Midwest, and chilly air coming all the way down to Texas and Arkansas. So there'll be quite a contrast there. Here's why. We've got a jet stream pattern that's got two cutoff lows, one here, one here. As we get through the weekend, cutoff number one spins over Virginia. Number two is over Southern Cal. We've got a ridge building in behind it. And as we get to next week, that ridge intensifies and brings milder air back into the central and eastern parts of the states. Strong trough in the west. This is Tuesday evening, and we do have a feature here that could produce locally severe storms on Tuesday, but the bigger push is right behind it here. You see out west, we've got strong winds aloft coming around that trough. That is going to move across the southern parts of the U.S., and the subtropical jet is going to get pretty active here Wednesday into Thursday. And we've got on Thursday evening a very strong jet streak moving across the Tennessee Valley. And I do think if this holds up, we are likely going to see a severe weather outbreak with tornadoes on Thursday over parts of the mid and south, mid-south and deep south, and maybe severe weather all the way up into the Ohio Valley. The 850 millibar pattern shows some strong winds with storm number one here moving across the center of the country, but storm two going to have more of an impact with stronger winds aloft here Thursday into Thursday evening, with a very strong upper level low moving through the Great Lakes. So as we get on into the longer range, this is the threat for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center for Wednesday evening over the Mississippi Delta region into the Arklatex. That area shifts eastward, and I think we will have tornadoes in here and eventually a 30% area over Alabama, Tennessee, eastern Mississippi, maybe into northern Florida. So the areas that got hit hard with tornadoes last month could be under the gun here again Thursday into Thursday evening. So, and we may have severe weather all the way up into Ohio. We'll have to see how things evolve there. You can see there is instability with our first system, but the second system behind it has widespread instability all the way up from the Gulf states all the way into parts of southeast Canada. So we could have thunderstorms all the way up to Ontario on Thursday evening. You can see the lightning density map here shows that. So we've got quite a bit of severe weather down in south here Wednesday night, Thursday and into Thursday evening, potentially thunderstorms all the way up into Ontario and Pennsylvania, and eventually moving into the Carolinas at night on Thursday night. A lot to talk about more next week. I'll have a video for you in the morning chatting more about this storm and how the models will evolve. I'm going to do my best to pinpoint local areas with who could get the severe weather. I know it's a lot to talk about, but I just wanted to thank you all for your time. If you could subscribe to my channel and like this video and ask me any questions you have. I also would like to give all the glory to God for allowing me to do this once again. John 3:16, for God loved the world in this way, he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Anyone who believes in him is not condemned, but anyone who does not believe is already condemned, because he has not believed in the name of the one and only Son of God. God loved the world. I just wanted to state that because God loves us. He doesn't hate us. He's not bringing on, turmoil. That is from the enemy. But he's only going to save those that choose to believe in him through his Son Jesus, that will bring eternal life. I would love to pray for you if you are struggling in your faith, or if you have any spiritual needs, or if you are not a believer and just would like a prayer for whatever situation you're in. But I want to thank you all so much today, and I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend coming up. God bless you.